As we transition here, I want you to meet Richard Cooper, Vice President of Strategic Communications and Outreach at the prestigious Space Foundation. I've had the pleasure of talking to Rich many times on the phone, and his enthusiasm for outreach is infectious. He's a modern-day cosmic scribe. He's fostering a global understanding of the boundless potentials of space and our role in it. His illustrious career is testament to his lifelong passion for communicating the significance of space exploration and its incredible impact on the future of humanity. In a world where the galaxies are no longer beyond our grasp, Richard stands as a beacon leading the dialogue that bridges science, policy, education, and community engagement. His work at the Space Foundation is not simply about understanding the cosmos, but about shaping the narrative of our cosmic journey. His mission is to inspire, educate, connect, and advocate for the space community, and to ensure that the benefits of space exploration are understood and embraced by leaders and citizens worldwide. So his work is more than just a profession. It is a calling that invites us all to join in the greatest adventure story of all time. Please welcome Rich Cooper.
Wow, I hope I live up to all that. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. And when Janet, and first off, I want to thank Janet, Chris, and Wade and the entire Humans to Mars team putting this together. Putting these things together is not easy. They literally take a year plus of planning. And again, kudos to them and the entire team for making this happen, as well as all the volunteers. When Janet asked me to talk to you guys today, I said, about what? She said, well, where are we at? And she said, you guys do Space Symposium. Talk a little bit about that and what that means. Well, first, a little bit about Space Foundation. We just turned 40. We look pretty good for 40. I wish I looked that good at 40. And, again, it's been an adventurous 4 decades with the organization that has literally grown to literally have a global footprint, because when we first started, we were the U.S. Space Foundation. And when we started in 1984, it was literally when the Cold War was reheating up again, as Star Wars was coming on board, and or what was then called Strategic Defense Initiative. When we started to, as an organization, there was no one that was bringing the larger sort of, what was then the burgeoning space community together to talk about what was happening. Space Foundation took the challenge on of doing that, and we started what we call the Space Symposium. Now, the Space Symposium is one of the largest assemblies of what we call the global space ecosystem. And when it first started, the events, the exhibits, and the meetings were all taking place in one ballroom. Since then, Space Symposium has grown significantly to where we not only take the full campus of the Broadmoor, we take the Cheyenne Mountain Resort, and a lot of other real estate that we can in bringing people together. But every symposium like this organization and its meetings, every one of these meetings has a feel. And Janet asked me to walk you through a little bit of what was happening with that. So I'm going to take you to the 36th Space Symposium. We're 2 weeks out, and there's this thing called COVID that happens. And we all know what COVID is. COVID's a 4-letter word with 25% inflation. And it was awful. 2 weeks out, we literally had to press pause, and when you literally have the world coming in, telling everybody to time out, stay, had its challenges. It took us 3 times till we finally got our 36th Space Symposium off. We did that the following August, 2021. And when we finally got those persons together, we had about 8,000 to 9,000 persons. And then we did a hybrid program to allow people online to connect to the program, because when you bring all of these international stakeholders from commercial industry, government, civil agencies, military, research, all of those parties together, that's a lot of energy and a lot of dynamic, and we didn't want to lose that feel. So when we did our 36th Space Symposium, it was very much an environment of, can we do this again? Can we all get back together? This organization had the same challenge of trying to figure out, again, post-COVID, how do we continue to keep the communication going? Well, this organization pulled it off, and so did we. And so we found out, yes, we can adapt in what are challenging environments of which COVID presented. That takes us to the 37th Space Symposium. At the 37th Space Symposium, it occurs literally about 4 to 5 weeks after the Ukraine war starts. So there's this sort of big security shadow over everything. But there's also this bit of what I will say is, whoa, we're doing what? And that is when we started to see commercial space capabilities really publicly display their capabilities. Companies like Maxar and Planet were putting imagery not only for military uses by Ukraine and other security forces, but it's on the front page of newspapers and news sites all around the world. I think we all saw a 40-mile convoy that was going nowhere, and it was commercial space assets that were the ones who were telling that story. Then you have things like SpaceX. Starlink comes in and enables a country's communications infrastructure to be restored so that they can continue to survive. And those capabilities really came into their own and really went on a big public display. And so there was, again, the yes, we can of showing that commercial can be the full partner in the space community that is long championed. That takes us to the 38th Space Symposium, which occurred a couple weeks ago. Let's see if I get this right. When we brought everyone together, we had just at or around 14,000 people from 46 countries. One of the great things about this is that whenever you would walk around the campus, the different languages that you would hear, but then again, the big fuller perspective of what was happening. So over 3.5 days, we bring all of these parties together, but it is the first gathering that we have from a fully operational James Webb Space Telescope. SLS has launched, worked, and given us incredible data as well as imagery from going around the moon. And then we have the full capabilities of commercial crews that are now starting to go up. So the 30th Space Symposium has this feel, and it's, I would say, the larger feel of the larger community of confidence. We're here. We can do these things. We've proven it. Now, I don't want to confuse confidence with swagger. You didn't see swagger because we all recognize the challenges of what goes on and what things cost and the difficulties to getting there. Again, the phrase space is hard we often hear about. But there was the confidence of being able to say both civil and military have a fully operational partner with the commercial industry. And that's a dynamic that, again, has been talked about, but now has really been on public display and has proven. But I wanted to give you a couple other takeaways that we saw at Symposium, but are starting to permeate across the larger community. Let me see, hit the right button here. I already talked about confidence. The success that we've had over the past couple of years has certainly instilled that. But the other piece of confidence is, or the other complement to confidence is sustainability. You heard a little bit about that yesterday with the conversation that I had up here with Bob Cabana about the need for more sustainable solutions. The sustainability factor is a huge driver. And there were a number of parties, particularly from Space Force, Space Command, et cetera, that are all saying, don't give me the conventional approaches of what we've had before. Please stop with the rinse and repeat. We're looking for sustainable solutions. Space Command went so far as to say they want to have sustainable satellite operations by the end of this decade. It's a pretty bold assertion. But then we also had persons from the Space Development Agency, which is now part of Space Force, starting to put forward acquisition strategies that allow those types of things to happen. The sustainability factor is tremendous. And in fact, we at Space Foundation will be releasing over the next couple of weeks a series of speeches that were given at Symposium, and I would commend all of them to you, but if you're interested in the sustainability approach, look at the remarks done by General Shaw, who's the number 2 of Space Command. His remarks relating to what they are looking for in sustainable solutions are critical for everybody in this community to know. But as you just heard from the previous panel and the panels of yesterday, having a sustainable approach for how crews will go to Mars and the moon and everything else are absolutely critical. And we've got to get in that mindset. Following that, creative partnerships. There are lots of companies that will form partnerships in order to pursue certain contracts. That's great. Those will always be needed. But they're looking more, and the community is looking more for more creative partnerships. What do I mean by that? Leidos, a very significant company, does a lot of work within the space community, both civil, military, commercial, all of that. Well, they had a partnership that I would have never, ever anticipated. And I saw it on the exhibit floor, and I'm walking by, and there's a moon rover. Okay. In fact, they have one of the guys there who helped engineer the first moon rovers from Apollo 16 and 17. And he's talking about all of it. But there's something that's different about this moon rover. It's got a big sticker on it, NASCAR. Now, who would have ever thought you'd start seeing NASCAR on items like this? But when you stop and think about it, it is a fabulous partnership when you think about the engineering and the eyes and the enthusiasm that comes from an entire large constituency and fan base to understand about what those vehicles can do and transferring that knowledge to what could possibly be done on the moon. They formed a partnership to explore on how they're going to race moon buggies and test them out here on this planet and as a way of bringing new talent into the community. That's just one of the many creative partnerships that they want to have happen. That's also a facet of what we see with the Artemis Accords, and that the strength of the Artemis Accords has really, really been picking up as you have more and more countries that are signing on to what is a larger menu of opportunity that people have. But that also, when you draw those eyes and energy and enthusiasm, it goes to the last point. And this is a big factor. In fact, of all of these sort of takeaways, they're all important. But I think the most important one is about the diversity and the workforce issue. This goes to expanding the aperture and the boundaries of what our community has to bring new people in. Again, we all know the classic image of the pocket-protecting engineer from way back when. That's changed dramatically. We still have a ways to go. The Aerospace Corporation has been challenging members of the aerospace community to reporting on their DEI numbers about how they are looking to bring in new talent, because the honest to goodness truth is the demands for space services, technologies, missions, whatever they may be, the demand is going to exceed the supply. And when that happens, we're not going to go anywhere. We have to be doing our part to prime that pump. And again, we talk about it all the time about, we've got to get kids engaged. The truth is, we've got to get kids engaged earlier. We have to be providing more investment to teachers, as well as schools and education all the way through. Again, we look at this at Space Foundation as a lifelong pursuit, that there are workers who may be looking for their next career or something, or reskill, whatever that may be. We have to be making strategic approaches if we are going to satisfy the demands that we need to do and make that happen. At Space Foundation, we believe every mission begins in a classroom. And if you don't have someone at the beginning, at the front of that classroom to help that talent get there, it's going to hold us back from where we want to go, and that's critically important. But there was something else that really stood out to me, and it stood out to a number of us as we put together Space Symposium this year. And that goes to this. I heard a young person here at the last panel who I heard him say why several times. I have to tell you, I don't know where that young man is, and I didn't hear the full bit of question. That is the most important question that we have to be answering going forward. We know, we hear a lot of challenges that, boy, couldn't this money be spent elsewhere? But I will say, one of the things that I will say the Space Force has done very, very well, and when it was first introduced, there were sort of people like, you gotta be kidding. Oh, I saw that movie. No, we don't need that. The truth is, Space Force has done a very good job of explaining the reasons behind why it is needed. NASA has been doing a much better job of explaining why we are doing these things. But the why is a huge factor that we have got to be putting at the forefront. Everybody in this room knows why they want to go to Mars, and that's great. We want to make those things happen. But the most important conversations that we are going to have as a community are going to be with our critics. This is today's global space economy. It's $469 billion. Over 90 countries operate in space today. That's huge, and there are more countries that are looking to jump in there. And again, when we put this out at the beginning of the year, we did our State of Space program, happy to say that the Artemis Accords is now 24. There's a lot of what that's going on here. We've got to be forward-leaning and talking about the why. My boss and I got a phone call a couple weeks ago from Yahoo Business. Yahoo Business leaped out and they said, would we come out and talk about, or would we respond to some polling information just come out about space? We said, sure. This particular poll number stood out to us. Now, there aren't a lot of things that a Biden voter and a Trump voter you find in unanimous agreement. Both of these constituencies are below 50% that they think space is a good use of taxpayer money. That was sobering. Wow. We had just had James Webb, we had just had SLS, Commercial Crew, things are humming, but it's below 50%. Our challenge as a community to get where we want to go is addressing those critics and helping to make this argument. Because if we do not address these arguments, if we don't get it above 50%, the challenge is going to be getting to go where we want to go. Which is why my challenge to you as we go forward as a community, and this is a piece that we're taking on at Space Foundation, is we can never forget the why. And again, it was why I started the question yesterday with Bob Cabana, why should we go to Mars? All of you in this room believe that. If I polled everybody, you'd be 100% of where we want to go. But it is the challenge of getting above the 50% and addressing the why that we're going to have to do going forward. Thanks for your time.